So warmly, warmly welcome to this webinar. And attachment is my favorite topic. I studied it for a few years now, and it's part of the therapy training I've been doing in the US. I'm studying with Diana Fosha, and the model is called AEDP, Accelerated Experiential Dynamic Psychotherapy. And their attachment is such a big part of a therapy and how we work with clients. So when I work with clients, I look more on their attachment styles than whatever they are coming from with the DSM, like what they have in kind of diagnosis and etc. For me, attachment is like a much more interesting way at looking at a person. And normally we have like 4 attachment categories, and it's secure, ambivalent, avoidant, and disorganized. And I myself is coming from the disorganized attachment. And what we're going to talk about today with attachment trauma, it's not like how do you get this certain kind of attachment style. So this attachment style is very rough dividing of what you end up. So the attachment styles is more seen as a trigger. No, it's a strategy, I mean. So that different attachment styles are survival strategies. So you can have the same trauma, like the same thing happening in your family, and 2 siblings can have different attachment styles. So the trauma is what we're going to focus on today, and especially what didn't happen, what wasn't there. And for us coming from this kind of traumas, as I'm coming from this part of the trauma, it's really tricky to understand what was actually wrong. I was suffering in intimate relationships, but everything was kind of good. I couldn't see what was missing. It was more like a sense of something must have been wrong, but I couldn't see it. I mean, that's why I really want to do this work together to describe this kind of different things that is kind of invisible for outsiders or even for us within it, and how it can really make us suffer and develop different kind of strategies to heal it. So I'm going to start now. So my name is Martina Stål, and I call myself a power and love therapist. And because for me, it's like power is like accessing anger, and love is what we're all looking for. And it's so interesting to see this work I've been doing. It's like, some exercises is very, very, very soft, and some are really, really powerful to get your power back. So we're going to talk a little bit about both today. So the first part, we talked about attachment trauma and focusing on things that happened to you, or you were beaten, abused emotionally, verbally, or there was no boundaries in the family. Everything was like going on at the same time. This part, we're going to focus on emotional neglect or neglect. And that could be that there was no emotions in the family. Everything was like cold, distant. Was no warmth, no love. We're also going to look at these specific things of having a parent where you go into role reversion. We're also going to look at people where the parent was narcissism. And then we're going to look at parents having dissociation or being traumatized themselves, suffering from mental illness. So this division of things happening to you and the neglect is like a very common way of looking at it, both here in Sweden and in the US. So we're going to look a little bit of attachment, because I myself just became a grandmother. So today, just before I went home, I visited my son on my way back and was like, for having this little baby, it's a bit younger than this. His baby is 2 months. And it's like, it's just instantly bring this smile. And I want to care for it. And I'm looking at it and the baby looking at me. And we like kind of smiling and making noises together. These like, very soft noises. But ooh, you like really like, that is what awakens in most parents. This kind of love, warm, wanting to take care of the baby, wanted to smile with it, look at it. And the child responds with smiling, looking, seeking contact, wanting to be close. And that is the natural thing. But if the parent is suffering from something or are depressed or something, the child's attempt to connect with the mother or the father is neglected. The parent is not there. It's like so obsessed with their own problems or own things. So the baby's like left there, like trying to reach us, trying to be close, trying to get care, but it's not answered to. So when we talk about this, Bowlby talks about that we need good enough caregiving. We need like to be about 70% right. It's okay to miss sometimes. It's okay to not have the energy sometimes. But if we call this good enough caregiving, then the child can develop a secure attachment. So the development of attachment styles is like you create this emotional bond with the parent as wiser and older or not. And if the child is like reaching out to you and you're looking away, the child can think like, oh, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. The person is not looking at me. And if the child needs help and support and the parent is not helping it, it kind of feels like, no, I can't trust others. And when the child grows up, it uses the parent as a safe haven. So it goes to the parent and then it naturally wants to explore the world. But if the parent is not safe, the child might like stand there and like holding on very, very tight to the parent and doesn't want to explore the world. So if we get a secure attachment, we have this emotional bound with the parents. The self is worthy. We can trust others and we want to explore the world. And that is so amazing. And during therapy, that's when I'm working with my client, it's like, I'm working like during therapy, I kind of become the parent they didn't have. They can create this emotional bond with me. They can trust me. I love them. I really do love my clients. It's like so amazing to meet them. And I'm always so happy. So they start to feel worthy. And I always keep what I promise. And it's like, if I can't keep anything, I say, no, I'm sorry, I can't do this. And I've always tried to meet them. And then slowly, we are building this secure attachment in therapy. And here is the different strategies. So the ambivalent strategy is kind of just adapting to other needs, being high in anxiety and just looking what does people want me to be. So it kind of doesn't develop a self, but they are really, really good at reading others. The avoidant attachment style is more like, oh, I can handle things on my own. I don't need anyone. And I've been really much in that one. So of course I'm an entrepreneur. So that's really funny. So these strategies they are super good for the child, but they are not good in intimate relationships as adults. So the avoidant doesn't have so much emotions, like they shut down the emotions. And disorganized is a wider categories, like everyone that's not secure, ambivalent, or avoidant will be put in the disorganized category. If that was from Bowlby, they called it, they were not able to categorize in the other three. So this is more a wider sense. And I'm out actually from this one, and I will explain later on why. So here we can have like a wider spectrum of traumas. But the most things with the disorganized, like normal things, is like there is a lot of this being frightened, being afraid. That's when I put the hair there. It's like always like looking out for danger. It could also be a lot of dissociation or fragmentation of the self. And that's really, really interesting as working with. So now we're coming into today's theme, and we're going to start with parents being emotionally flat. And this image is kind of, could also be like the parents are always angry. It could be not flat, it could also be the opposite, like always like super emotional, but we call it flatness here. And that's what I'm mostly is more scary. I was working with a client a few years back, and we were talking about her family. And as Alex, like we continue working, we felt like we started calling her family like ghosts. It was like they were there, but there was like no vitality, no emotions, no nothing in them. It was kind of, yeah, they were living, but they were not being, expressing or anything. So her whole family was kind of ghosty. And herself was like really ghost. There was like no affects, no emotions. This is really, really scary for a child, because like a child has so much emotions. You see, they are so super happy, or they are really, really angry, or they are like really emotional. So if you meet the child, you need to meet it with the same emotion. You mirror the emotions back to them. And then they understand emotions and start like, we also put words to emotions like, yeah, I really feel that you are angry. I understand that you're angry now when he's taking your toy. Or I think, oh, I'm really sad that you missed that thing. And it's like we really makes this like the parents' work job is to educate the children so they understand emotions. But there is no emotions. The children is left with no map of life, because all emotions have adaptive action tendencies. Like they carry with them a message. If you feel fear, you should flee. If you feel joy, you should like share it with others. But if that is lacking, there is like a deadness in the body. So the capacities we need to develop, and this is like true for most people with avoidant attachment style strategies, it's like start to see how does emotions feel in the body. We also need to start to tolerate emotions and to regulate, to find like what is the adequate volume of the emotion at the time. And also to have emotions. Peter Fonagy has talked a lot about mentalization and affect regulation. And that is like when the child gets mirrored in the emotions, like mirror, we like holding them, being emotional with them and understanding them and saying like, yes, I also feel that emotion, or I can understand you. They also develop a kind of sense of self. They can understand that this is my emotion and this is the other person's emotion. And if this person is having this, if I meet my friend and his dog has died, I can understand that he's really sad and he's mourning. And if me myself is like really angry at someone, I can say like, yeah, this is not okay for me. I learned to set boundaries. So every emotions carry with them so much information. So if we don't feel emotions, we don't understand ourselves, others, or where we're heading in the world. And we're going to do an exercise very soon, but this is a model that is like key in my therapy modality. And we talk about, we can either be in core emotions, and that is the bottom of the triangle. If we can't feel these core emotions, then anxiety might be triggered, or we can use a defense to push emotions down. And this model is kind of tricky to understand, but it's just to know, like if you're not feeling emotions, but instead feeling anxiety, there could be like anxiety is like really pushing down, blocking emotions, and also defenses are blocking emotions. So if you're in a situations like I meet a lot of people that go to funerals and can't feel sadness because it's just blocked. And this kind of blocking of emotions is adaptive when we can't feel. But while doing therapy and while healing our attachment trauma, the key is to start feeling again, feeling and dealing. So we're going to do one of my favorite exercises. So you're going to think about a person. And I don't suggest you to take your mother or father, take a coworker, an ex-partner, or maybe a friend or someone that is not so emotional or so traumatic at the moment. So take someone that is like, yeah, not the worst ones. So you're going to think about a person, and then we're going to do this meditation that is called emotion scanning together. And then we're going to see how many emotions do you feel towards this person. So I'm gonna use, yeah, I'm gonna use my sister because that is like not so. So I'm gonna think about my sister, and then we're gonna scan for every emotion here. Ah. So then I'm gonna like ask you, so you can close your eyes, so start meditating a little bit. Take a deep breath. And then we're gonna think about this person and feel inside your body. Do you feel joy toward this person? And yes, I feel joy towards my sister. It's a lot. Yeah, it's like a bubbly feeling in my chest. We go to the next. So I'm thinking about my sister, and I feel curiosity. Curiosity is like, wow, tell me more. Yeah, I do feel curiosity. It's like also like a little bit bubbly, but it's more like, yeah, tell me more. I want to know. And it's like, see if you can feel that towards the person. So fear, when I'm thinking about my sister, do I feel any fear? No, fear does feel like you want to move away from that person. It's like can be a contraction of the chest. So notice if you feel any fear towards that person you are thinking about. And love. Yeah, I feel a lot of love. I feel a warmth in my chest for my sister. It's like a warm sensation of loving her. Anger. The moment, nothing. Anger is more like a kind of, oh, you can feel like it's going up, an upward stream of energy, and you kind of maybe you put your hands in fists and you want to attack them. So see if you feel anger towards the person you are thinking about. Sexuality and lust. For me, it's also like a little bit of playfulness. It's like if you are thinking about someone you have or could be intimate with, then you can feel it in your genitals. But if you feel it like towards like my sister, I feel a lot of playfulness. It's like, wow, we can do this. We can go dancing. We can do anything. So I feel that, but it's more like in the playfulness, like having fun together. So shame. Yeah, I feel shame for a very old thing that happens like 15, 14 years ago. There's a thing I'm really feeling shame. And shame is like you're really lowering my head. Like, yeah, I regret I did that. That was not really nice of me. We're going to go forwards to shame. So shame is a very important social emotion. And here we're looking at shame. Yeah, we already been at shame for something we did, but we're looking at disgust now. Sorry. So disgust is feeling like, ugh, it's like you're going to throw up. You feel gross. It's like, ugh, feels like something wants to come up. And that is like a common emotion if you are suffering from sexual abuse or someone that is like going over your boundaries or behaving really bad. It's even a person that has been like having lots of anxiety, like spreading that kind of poisonous anxiety. You can feel disgust towards. So just notice if you feel disgust. And I see here I made a mistake. So we're going to go to sadness for number 9. So you notice if you feel any sadness connected to this person. It's like you feel a sadness of, yeah, I can feel a little sadness when I'm thinking about my sister. And sadness is like I can feel it in the eyes and where I feel it, yeah, a little bit in the chest. And I feel a sadness that we doesn't share a deeper contact, or we doesn't share the way of life we're living. We could have been so much closer if she was more into psychology and stuff than I am. But so I can feel a bit of sadness when I'm thinking about my sister. Yeah. So now I'm a bit curious about you. And I'm going to check in with Daniel and see if there is any questions in the chat. If anyone wants to share about this.
There's no question yet in the chat.
Oh, then I just continue. So, and if you want to do this exercise again, I only have it in Sweden, but I have it on my YouTube channel. And if you want to spend a lot of time with me, I have an Easter retreat in Ireland in the end of March, beginning of April. And then we're going to work with power, love, and this kind of adaptive action tendencies and finding your pure self. It's like, what do I want? And this is also part of one thing that you miss when you're suffering from, especially the things that is coming now. It's like you develop the sense of self. Who am I? Who do I want to be? And what do I like? So that is like the theme of this is like power, love, and developing of the self. So now we're going to continue over to other core things that could be happen that is not really visible. And this one is one of my favorites. And to heal attachment trauma in therapy, you really need to understand role reversion. And that is the case when the child, as a survival strategy, the parent, the mother or father is very weak or suffering from trauma, the child could be the one who takes on the parent role. He starts caretake the parent. when it's supposed to be the other way around. The parents should be there for the child. So when the child starts caretaking the parent, she or he does it to maximum the possibility that the parent will caretake the child back. So what you see here that is really confusing is like one part of the child that can become kind of a split in the child. One part is the adult to the adult, other one it's the child. So you have like two, it's like feeling like you have two connections with the parent, one as the child and one where you are the adult and the parent is child. So it's like when you start to heal trauma, a lot of the work is to finding your voice and saying this was not okay for me, and feeling in many cases anger towards the parents, like this was not okay. But if you have rolereversion, the clients are not able to feel the anger because they can't feel anger of the one they're also caretaking. So it becomes really entangled. It's like really also sometimes really difficult for the child to develop as a sense of self, like being away. It can be very, very enmeshed. And I have a lot of this. And this is like so tricky because it's like you're both. It's like I come to my parent and I have a problem. And it's like she gets really upset or anxious. And in the end, I said, like, no, it's okay. It's gonna go fine. I will survive. So instead of she reassuring me, like, yeah, I will help you, I will support you. This happens also, but it's like me saying, like, I will be okay. So it's like, it's really, really confusing because you're coming there and want support, and you are the one ending up supporting. And we're also going to look at narcissism. It's like, if a parent are a narcissist, it's also a survival strategy, of course, for the parent. But if the parent are narcissistic, the child is like kind of mirroring the parent. It's like the child is there for the parent. The parent is self-absorbed. It's like so much into their things. And the child is more like supporting the parent. And also here, because a lot of entanglement, like the child and the parent, there is like no clear boundaries. Where does the parent end and the child begins? So also here, it's a lot of like working of like giving up this kind of enmeshment, uncoupling the parent from the child, so the child can start to develop a sense of own self and start also to feel worthy of being received and being mirrored and being valued. And because it's like it's always put all that to the parent. And it's not that it's like we're stupid. We just do what's there and we don't know anything else. And this is like really tricky to see from the outside. I have a very good friend who has a mother who was an artist, and it was like a very grandiose artist, but she was felt like a servant to the parent. Like she was the housemaid. The parent was like the king. And this is like really difficult to see from the outside because it's like really amazing, fantastic people. But this is also like very interesting to when you start finding this in therapy. It's a lot of work with starting to evaluate and owning the self, to develop the self that was not developed, was underdeveloped. And then tangle, like pulling away, like getting it like getting it away. And also finding this kind of self-worth. Finding the anger towards the parents, like, this was not okay for you to take all this space. You should have been the caretaker of me. And we also do this kind of inner child work where we start to feel love for the child. And this is so important work, and I love doing it. We also have parents where the love and care and warmth, it's like not really warm. They can be cold, workaholics, and very little positive affirmation. And we all need that kind of love and warmth to develop, to feel worthy of setting boundaries, to feel worthy of asking for what we want, to feel worthy, like when applying for a job, or feel worthy to say no. But we also need this warmth to be able to love others. If we are an empty cup of love, we just go around like, oh, can you fill my cup of love? I need more love. I need more love. And it's really, really difficult to be in the world and not being able to express love for others. I talk about a lot of this in the Tantra world. There's so many people could come there who just wants to be held and cared for and loved and appreciated. But we also have to give it back to others. We can't just go and get. You can do that if you go to a therapist. That's okay. You get a lot of warmth. If you're with me, I love being warm and appreciate people. And slowly, slowly, that starts to grow as a seed inside you. Yes, I am loved. I'm worthy of being loved. And then we start feeling love for others. Some people, like if you have an ambivalent attachment, you have a very strong love towards other, but a very like dismissive self-care. It's like, so this like you have to have a balance. You have to both love yourself and love others. And that's so important. And also if you're struggling from this role reversing or narcissism, this is one of my favorite pictures. It's like, who are you? What do you want? To start to ask yourself, who are you? What do you want? When I sit with clients with this, it's like, yeah, do you want to have move the chair closer? And they said, look at me, like, can I decide? Yeah, you can decide. Do you want me to move closer or do you want to stay away? Like, what kind of distance is good for you? Do you want to do this or this kind of exercise? And also, like, just start to develop a sense, like when you meet friends, it's like telling what do you want? Just don't follow them to the movies and see whatever they want to see. It's like, figure out what movie would you love to see? So that is like a big part of trauma work, is to start develop a sense of centered, embodied self. And that's a lot of things you can do in Tantra, but you can do in therapy. It's like being seen. And really being seen is so important for everyone. From the little child I was looking at today, his name is Walter, and he's like so amazing. It's like we're just looking, and it's like all that love that starts to circulate. It's just amazing. And imagine a child that didn't have that warm looking and smiling grandmother or parent. It's like they not develop this. There is no curiosity. It's like, I'm so curious, who is he gonna become? And wow. And we meet children, just start to ask, like, see them, like, oh, are you interested in that? Was this your favorite color? And just ask them, be curious about them so they can start developing a sense of self. And this is also, if you are a parent, this is so important to ask the child, who are you? It's not you don't ask the child, who are you? But like, trying for them to like unfold the self, give them space for this unfoldment of the self. And I do this exercise on all my retreats. I'm not going to do it today, but this is an exercise where we say to each other, like, I can say it to you, not like, it's like we do it like, you are love, I am love, we are love. And this exercise, we did like repeating this, like, you are love, I am love, and we are love. We did this during an online training during COVID. And then I got this image from a woman that she had tattooed this message on her arm. And I'm like so happy. And I wish she was here today. It would be so amazing. So to understand, like, our pure essence is love. We are born as love. And if you're in things, you can know that, like, that's our inner essence. But like, if we grow up in a dysfunctional family, we kind of forget that or don't get that. So what we are doing is, like, in the personal development, it's like coming back as love, finding our pure essence as love. Yes. This is one of my absolutely favorite things, dissociation. And how can this be a trauma, you say? Yeah, we're back to the ghosts. It's like you are coming to your parent, and dissociation is kind of a detachment. You go blank. There's like different kinds of dissociation, but one is like you go blank. And I can see this on my clients in therapy a lot. It's like we're working like maybe with the anger towards the parents, so they start feeling it, but then suddenly goes blank. They also use this like word, it's like it's blanked, it's blank, it's like nothing here, it's like goes really ghosty, airy, and it's kind of they detach from the emotion. And then I understand we've gone over the limit of what they can feel. So when we go back and see if we can like expand the capacity to feel before dissociation kicking in. So dissociation is a defense towards overwhelming emotions. And we needed that as a child. But if we have a parent that with their own trauma, using dissociation as a strategy, so you come to your parents, or it could be like you were happy or sexual or anything. Like it can be super, super happy, but the parent is not able to hold that amount of happiness. They go blank. And the child is like, wow, it's no one there. And it's really, really scary. So dissociation can be, it's super, super important to be able to do it if the life is really traumatic. But so it could be also that the self is fragmenting. It's like you have developed a kind of good girl, good boy self, but everything that is not validated by the parents is like put to another part. So maybe if you have a very high energy, or you're wild and crazy like I am, and if that wasn't accepted from the parent, all these kind of things is put into different self that is hidden from the parents. So the only thing is like the good girl there, like, oh, I behave good, I say my thanks, and I'm like, I'm not really myself. I'm only like a very small part of myself. And that is also part of dissociation. Could also feeling like you can dissociate it from your body. It's like if the body is suffering from trauma, you dissociate from your body. And then it's like, you don't feel the body, like feeling like a walking head, but it's like nothing is here. And so when you have parents with dissociation, or they're being depressed, anxious, or having mental illness, it's like they're not answering. There is no one there. or they answer very anger, or we're like the answer is not appropriate or inadequate. So what happens is like, it's very difficult to understand the world if the parents are not responding to your needs or to your emotions or to your whatever you need or feel. And this is not so easy to understand, because it's like, it could also be that it's like being depressed. It's like, yeah, it's okay. I have had a client, for example, her mother was always in her room and she was sitting outside the mother's room waiting for the mother to come out. And that is not good. But it was like, she couldn't really see this as a trauma. But that is a trauma. If the parent is mentally ill, it's a trauma for the child, because the child is not mirrored, played with, cared for, loved, answered to. So then, if the parent is not responding to the child feels unworthy. It feels like it must be something wrong with me. And if the parents are dissociating, it's like there is like kind of no center. And also having these kind of things, like a lot of people having these kind of traumas use the strategies of fragmentation that is like the core in the disorganized attachments. It's like they develop different kinds of self to survive in the world that is not sitting together. They are not connecting and talking to each other, these selves. And I've had these fragmented selves. They finally came together a year ago. But it's so interesting to see like how you can jump between different selves when you have this fragmented self, and then the world seems pretty like unstable, pretty confusing. So a lot of people that has this struggling with dissociation and this kind of disorganized feels like it's unreal. It's confusing. So when I ever hear these words like unreal or confusing or not understanding the world, could be these things. And then we start working with that. And we can also see like if the parents are suffering from disorganized attachment themselves or dissociation, this is like earned down, or we called about intergenerational trauma. The parents could have been in war and suffering, and then the trauma is just like, it just filters down for the generation until someone stops it. And in my family, I am is the one stopping it. I've done so enormous amount of work. So I'm coming from the disorganized, but my child is secure. And that is my biggest gift ever to my son, to do the work so he can become secure. And this is always possible for all of us who's parents. It doesn't matter if the kids are grown up. The work we do will also benefit our children. So I'm not going to... So if we look at disorganized attachment, it goes from the child, from the adult to the child. So if I'm coming to my parents with emotions and they are dissociating, what do I do as a child? I learn to dissociate. If I come to my mother and they go into freeze, I also go into freeze. If the parent are sending mixed signals to me, I also use mixed signals. It's like if I go to the parent and they got super anxious about something, I also can become super anxious or super scared. And so many times I'm sitting with the clients. I had one client recently, and her mother was shifting roles. She had she had a fragmented self and was shifting from being, I don't know why, but it's a lot of artists. She was also an artist. And so it's like, that's like kind of the the hidden gold in the disorganized attachment. It's like there is a lot of possibilities of developing very creative personalities with like a lot of art or drama or entrepreneurs or academics or something. So it's like, because it's like they've been using so many strategies, so they also develop this kind of fantasy world or very hyper focus. So it can also be this kind of superpowers they develop at the same time, having all this darkness of the disorganized attachment. So I had this client, and her mother was shifting between the artist, being the good mother, really caretaking the child, or being the victim. So then the child, and there was the artist that was kind of a narcissistic role. The child was feeding the mother. And then in one part of the mother, the child could be the child and be caretaking by the mother. But in the next situation or a day later, the mother was the victim and the girl had to caretake the mother. And this is like so confusing. So it's like the mother and child are both switching and having these kind of roles that they change between. And that is just super adaptive to the child to develop a sense of like a self that is needed to meet the adult. And of course, this is not needed in the secure attachment. And yeah, I'm getting emotional now. Yeah. So then the child can be the child most of the time, or develop the sense of self. But life is that this is. And if we suffer from this, we suffer from this. And what we need to develop from coming from a disorganized is a lot of like could be traumas in the body. So we work with presence, being here and now, being in our body, trust in the self and in others, and healing this fragmented self. And this is like for me to find when I start understanding I have someone with disorganized attachment, it's like, yay, we're going to go on a treasure hunt. And then we slowly find in therapies this different kind of selves. The self that is like the core self that is like have used their full capacity, develop maybe as an artist or being in the forest or academia or anything, but also these kind of trauma selves, like the caretaker of the parent or someone part that is like really super afraid of everything. And when we start to put these selves on a map, we start to find that there is kind of a bigger self. And then when we like step back, if the person had like happened to jump into like this really scared part, we can start to like come back and witnessing all this, like, yeah, you're in the really scared, traumatic trauma self right now. How is it to see that you are in that part? And then by doing that, the healing starts. It's like, yeah, that's one part of me. And this part is 4 years old. And it was so afraid that the mother is going to go and hang herself or whatever. So, and that self can be triggered in daily life when we are adults. And then it's like, oh, this is this 4-year-old that was so afraid that her mother was going to die. And then we start holding that little child and understanding it and seeing it and feeling it. And then it's just so amazing. And then we start loving that little girl who was really traumatized and healing that. Yeah, I talked a lot right now. So what I wanted to say here is that I am specialized in healing disorganized attachment, and I love it. And if you want to see a full webinar about healing disorganized attachment, I will send this again. I will do it also in February, maybe. So you can watch it on my YouTube channel. But if you're also struggling yourself with a disorganized attachment, you can book a friend, or any kind of attachment traumas whatsoever, or whatever, PTSD and so. You can book a free consultation with me on my Boka Direkt page. And I can ask Daniel to put this link into the chat, so you can go in there and just book a 15 minutes free consultation with me, or watch my videos on YouTube. So let's have a little look here where we are. So I will see if there are any questions in the chat, or do you have any questions, Daniel?
No, I thought it was very interesting to see how this traumas affect you in your life and how you're dealing with kind of very complicated matter in the relationship between parents and children.
Yeah, this kind of tricky, all these things. So we can go to like a kind of, so when you are healing the attachment trauma, and the interesting thing is that it's always possible to heal. And there is like 3 different areas that we work with when I work with clients. And that one of them is healing the fragmentation, the split of the self. And not everyone has this split of the self. Yeah, but everyone has it in kind of smaller ways. We have like a self that goes to work, or our parent self. But if you have this kind of real fragmentation, it's more like you experiencing jumping between selves and not really understanding it. So that is one work we like, healing the fragmentation. And we also work with dissociation, and to see what makes you dissociate and how can you come back from dissociation. And one thing that's like really helpful is like kind of grabbing yourself a little bit, or doing things like this, like coming back to the body. One of my favorite things for coming back from dissociation is swimming in the ocean, or having a shower. It's like swimming and like going really deep, and until it gets really cold, then it's like I kind of sense like I can pop out of the dissociation, and I actually still dissociate. And it's like, yeah, that's like a superpower. Or it doesn't have to be so, oh, wow, it's like so bad. And so the thing is how you learn how to get out of dissociation. And there is a lot of emotional work when we work with healing the trauma. And there's also a full video on that on YouTube. So the most important thing is to feel the emotions you couldn't feel, to feel the anger at the parents, to feel the sadness for what you didn't have, to feel the love for the child, but also to feel the disgust for things that was really disgusting. And there's something mute, Daniel. It's something like it's a bit noisy. And the third part is undoing aloneness, and like being seen and really feeling seen, and start to develop that kind of self that was underdeveloped. But also how to learn to regulate affects, how to like if you're angry, to not go into collapse or not going into rage, to feel that like, yeah, I can be angry and hold the anger. And that is learned by doing it with someone else. So it's called dyadic affect regulation. That is so important. That is like super, super important to learn that skill. And a lot of people did ambivalent attachment, only can regulate with others. So when you learn this, you have to learn to regulate yourself, but also to use others as regulation. So people with avoidant attachment only self-regulate, they just suppress emotions. So what we're going to do is like what Diana says, we're going to work with feeling and dealing. So, and I can talk about this forever. And there is a lot of things you can heal if you go to tantra festivals, but it's also higher risks. And if you want to have a lot of unconditional love, you can go to my YouTube channel and go to this called Love Channel, Kärlekskanalen, and then I will give you unconditional love for 7 minutes. And you can watch this as many times as you want. And that's a way to start developing the sense of being worthy. And this is me. And I love my work. And I love this area. So, and I'm so open to have any questions and book a consultation, come to a retreat, book therapy. You are so warmly, warmly welcome. And we can see if we want to take any of the questions now. And I see it's questions in the chat, Daniel, or we should, is it anyone that you should read out now?
There's no question actually in the chat, unfortunately.
So if there's no questions in the chat, I will end the recording, and then I will open up for questions without recording.